Let's take a look at that organised crime area. Illicit trade is a huge industry, often overlooked because people see it as a victimless crime. How do we get that put on the agenda? I can't see law enforcement doing it because simply they have a list of things that they have to treat as important, and it's usually politically driven. Is that then going to be down to the free market? Is it going to be down to security within corporations to do something about illicit trade?
A good question, one we've been trying to grapple with a little bit. First, we've got to put it in perspective. The best estimate that people are giving me is that the illicit side of the economy is probably about 10%, and let's call it that as a round figure. The way it penetrates, though, is of course being an illicit market and being an unknown market. It's very, very surreptitious. So when I go out talking to business and business groups, they don't necessarily, they see the crime, they don't see the organisation behind it necessarily, or if they do, they won't talk about it. So it's giving people a better understanding that what's happening to them is probably also happening to somebody else, is also happening to somebody else. The next dimension of that is like the crowding out effect. Many businesses are running on pretty slim margins, or they're pretty small companies, and the ability for them to be pushed out of a market segment or to have their integrity compromised is I think, very real. How do they deal with that? And I know it's not a popular one, but you look at what's happening in the tobacco space in particular, where you get this interaction of customer demand plus government taxes plus a bifurcated series of responsibilities across governments, and all of a sudden you have a ripe area for organised crime to penetrate. And when it penetrates, it has real effects on individual businesses, but also has effect on people's health, not just from smoking, but also from dodgy product. In all of these ways, what we're seeing is a problem that's worth taking steps to deal with. We're also, though, seeing an area where government attention is continually being diverted away to, I'll call them higher priorities like terrorism. So how do we get a consistent flow of funding and enhance workforce skills so that government can better deal with this in a way that doesn't leave them always open to, or law enforcement agencies always open to having to chop and change their priorities?
So not also a danger with illicit trade where there are frankly some very bad people building small fortunes and getting themselves into positions of power?
The nexus between crime and corruption is a really interesting one in Australia. We're certainly not like other countries. Worst thing is, though, I don't know that we know the extent. So we're starting to see snippets, and ABC recently, Four Corners, did some pretty good work, pretty good investigative work on the nexus between corruption and political power. We see every now and again individuals bob up, and you see where they're using their political positions to enhance themselves. But what we don't have at the federal level, outside the law enforcement space, is some kind of anti-corruption mechanism. Not one that can just take referrals, the AFP can do that, but one that can actually investigate corruption. And I think that's a forward agenda for Australia, is working out what kind of model would be best for it. Is it an ICAC style model that is admittedly falling into a little bit of disrepute at the moment, or is it something more like a privileges committee kind of setup? A debate we've got to have, but it's one that we've not yet started.
Is it organised crime or is it network crime? Is that what we're dealing with?
People talk about the cutesies of disorganised crime and the like. Look, networks are, I think, the prevailing model. Information technology enables that, as do transnational connections enable that. And let's face it, the idea of a vertically integrated, wholly composed organism will still exist. There will be some models of that, but in the main, it's going to be opportunists who are able to link up using different kinds of kinship, ethnic or friendship connections, based with a good healthy dose of anonymity that can be achieved in some transactions, and exploit those, reform them in ways that will suit the particular purpose for the day. One of the things that I think is an emerging trend, you've probably been here for 10 years or so, but it's not just a person dabbling in just one kind of crime. It's where's the opportunity? How can I use my supply chain to move something from there to here that people want and people will pay a premium?